we need to understand better the forces of change, and we need to respect the forces of change around us and adapt our practices in response to that.
Business of Architecture, episode 264. Hello and welcome back, Architect Nation. I'm Enoch Sears, and this is the show where you'll discover tips, strategies, and secrets for running a more profitable and impactful architecture and design practice. Today's guest is Darryl Condon, the managing partner of HCMA Architects, a firm with 80 people based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. They also have an office in Victoria. Now, on this show, we had the opportunity to jump into what Darryl calls a multidisciplinary practice, his ideas on the future of architecture, how they've been able to pull in people from other disciplines to fuel their growth exponentially and offer other services to their clients. It's a fascinating conversation, especially with regard to Darryl talking about the pressures that are on architecture firms nowadays to deliver more in less time at higher quality and ultimately with less budget and just required to do more. And so Darryl talks about how they've been responding to this, how they've been bringing in a multidisciplinary team, and he really talks about his thoughts about how to be successful in the next 10 to 20 years. It's a great conversation. I know you're going to love it. Now, if you haven't already, get free instant access to the 4-part architecture firm profit map video specifically for podcast subscribers by going to freearchitectgift.com. On that page, you can enter in your best email address and get instant access. Special thanks to the sponsors of today's show, BQE Core and SageGlass. BQE Core is a firm management software that allows you to manage your firm and create a more profitable and impactful firm by paying attention and getting up-to-date reports on what's really happening in the firm, all through a mobile dashboard that you can access on your mobile phone or on your desktop computer that's all in the cloud. You can get a free trial by going to businessofarchitecture.com/demo. SageGlass is the manufacturer of highly intelligent, reliable dynamic glass. Dynamic meaning that it can actually change the shading of the glass to prevent glare, to prevent heat gain, to block out the sun, depending on the needs of the occupants within the buildings. It's a fantastic material, and if you'd like to consider using it for your next project, go check out sageglass.com for more information. And with that, let's jump into today's show. Darryl Condon, welcome back to the Business of Architecture.
Happy to be here.
So in our last episode, we touched slightly on the idea that you have about a multidisciplinary practice, and you kind of contrasted that with the typical architecture practice. And tell me, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think the traditional business model of architecture has been architects within a firm, consulting with engineers and other sub-consultants in different firms. And obviously, there's a multitude of different approaches. For some firms have interior designers or landscape architects, and some firms integrate the structural, mechanical, electrical engineering within their practice. And I think the sort of engineering interdisciplinary model is probably far more prevalent than the model that we've embarked on, because what we're doing is bringing different design disciplines. So communications design, graphics design, industrial design, fashion design, different design disciplines into our practice, which enables us to bring a wider range of design thinking to our projects.
Okay, well, in the materials you sent over, you say that you feel that every firm should employ a fashion designer. Why is that, and what do you mean by that?
Well, so this is an interesting story. So as we've been looking for different people within our firm, we've been very open to bring people in with diverse backgrounds. And so we had an opening for our office manager, and we didn't call it that when we put the job posting out. We had a very vague job posting, very intentionally, because we wanted to see what kind of different types of thinking that would emerge. And in the end, the individual we hired came from a fashion design background. And so she joined us really to become an office manager from a fashion design background, and stayed in that role for a year, really helpful to bring discipline and structure to our office systems. But quite quickly we realized that there was a structure in the way that she approached design thinking that came from her background that was really interesting to us, both in terms of strategic insight, trends forecasting, But the thing that stands out, and if I step back a moment, one of my beliefs is that architects quite erroneously think that we can do everything. That we're experts on graphic design, on interior design, and all these other. And I think that there's a real problem in the architectural profession and a lack of respect for the unique skills that these other design disciplines bring to the table. And so, one of the tangible examples is we were having a discussion on a project, and it was a discussion on materials and color. And so we invited the fashion designer into this conversation to contribute to the discussion. And what we immediately realized is that through her training, her understanding of color went so far beyond anything that any of the architectural staff within our firm had because of her training. And so now what we realized is that to bring that type of depth of understanding of that aspect of design into our architectural projects is really powerful, right? So it's a really tangible example of when you open yourself up and you say, no, we're going to respect that these other design disciplines have a unique skill and education and mindset, and that our projects will benefit from that. So for us, it's a really tangible example of the impact of bringing in a different type of designer into the practice.
So when you talk about communication design is one thing you mentioned graphic design, you've mentioned fashion design. How would each of these people play a role in the services that you offer your clients?
So it's been really fascinating. We started slowly. We brought in one communication designer and an individual who would run a branding company, and we started slowly, and our goal was that within a year, if we could sort of pay their salaries with the additional work, that we'd be doing okay, right? And ignoring overhead and ignoring profit, and just saying we'll take a very simple approach. And the logic that I use when we're introducing a design discipline is really simple, is that within the first year, we bring in enough fee to pay that salary. All of the service that they're providing on the architectural projects is like bonus, right? It's value add, right? But what happened was quite different. Was that quite quickly our clients caught wind of this skill set that we had within the office, and within a year, we were 4 people in that department, and now we're closer to 10, and that's without any direct marketing of that skill set. It's been through word of mouth, and it's been through just clients looking over the shoulder and going, wait a minute, you guys do that? And as we've started to apply that skill set to our architectural projects, other clients have seen that and said, wait a minute, how do we get that? And so it's really been sort of the inertia of that side of the practice has been strictly word of mouth and through people seeing what we're doing. And so it's been really fascinating. So a lot of our work has been lateral through our existing clients or existing projects, where we did a museum project that led to a rebranding of the museum. What emerged through the design process is that they needed to update their brand, and so our branding team got involved and rebranded the museum. So that's an example. We see it a lot in the front end in the public consultation, where we bring in the communication design, website design, and interactive design into public consultation or communicating with the public. So it can be a lot of different things. We've also found clients outside of the realm of architecture quite fascinated with this sort of mixture of design disciplines that have come to us for design exercises. I have to say that we've had a lot of success extending laterally into the realm of our architectural projects. We haven't had as much success as I would like at this point in terms of really solidifying a body of work outside of sort of traditional area of our practice. And so that's for us the next step as we build this model is gaining greater traction outside of the realm of architecture and the built environments, where the logic of that has become immediately apparent to our clients.
Now, in terms of the business entity itself, is this small team that you have inside the larger firm, do you run it as a separate business entity where you actually tracking some profitability to that unit, or do you just bundle everything together as the firm?
It's all within the same firm, and we are putting systems into place to look at it as sort of a subgroup, business group. One of the reasons why we're doing this, beyond the design impact, is also a belief that our processes from a whether it be a project management system or a business system, a project tracking system, that we can learn from the way other design disciplines work in terms of their business model as well, and bring that thinking. And that's been one of the areas of greatest challenge for us. Is and I'll give you an example. A typical architectural project may last 3, 4, 5 years, and so the cadence of that, which we're all used to and comfortable, is completely different than a communication design project that might last 2, 3, 4 weeks. So the pace of the projects and the scale of the projects also being so much smaller imposes a discipline within the communication design. What we've come to understand is that the discipline in terms of how you organize yourself, how you manage those projects, how you bring that work in on an ongoing basis is very different than an architectural practice. And we firmly believe, and I think we're seeing that we can learn from that, and that it's going to make us stronger. And I think that those design disciplines can learn from architecture as well. And we think there's a cross-pollination potential as a result of learning from those at a systems level. And so that for us is a work in progress. I'd love to say that we've mastered that. But it's only been a couple of years that we've been really vigorously on this path. And so it is still a work in progress.
In our last episode, you talked about as you've grown, that it's kind of stretched your systems, right? That you had kind of 50, 60 people systems that work pretty well, 30, but then grew to 80, and now it's sort of time to go back and take stock of things. Specifically, what kind of systems are you talking about, Darryl, that you guys are now going back to update?
Probably the most, we're looking at really at all of our systems, whether they be hiring processes, or HR systems, but the most significant is our project management and project tracking, our resource allocation systems. When we were 30 or 40 people, you could manage your resources pretty much in your head. You had a good sense of what everybody was doing, what the status of those projects were, and where to move people around. And then at some point you cross a threshold where all of a sudden you can't, and it becomes so difficult to understand where those hills and valleys are in the workload, so you can move people around and get your efficiency where you need it to be on projects. And so the most significant system for us right now is refining our project tracking and resource allocation system, so that we can better manage that.
And what tool do you use for that?
We've been experimenting with a number. We use a Jira for our accounting system, and so we've been looking at how we can integrate the functionality and the modules within that system. Oftentimes it's good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet that enables you to do that tracking quite effectively as well. So we have a bit of a hybrid model where some of it's within our accounting system, and some of it's in a nested layers of Excel spreadsheets, and we're still refining that. To be honest, we haven't had the success we'd like to have a fully integrated system that suits us, and so we're kind of going back and forth, and kind of gone back to a simpler, more Excel-based system for that.
Awesome. Well, Darryl, let's just finish up by talking about your ideas about the future of architecture. I know you have some definite thoughts about this. Please share.
Yeah. When architects get together, it's quite common to hear the litany of complaints and criticisms about where the profession is, and how we're losing this, and people don't respect us to that, and all of the challenges that are real. We believe that there are a tremendous number of the challenges that the profession faces, and that we need to, but we need to respect the conditions that are causing those challenges. And too often we feel that architects are looking for someone to change it in our interest, to go back, or to see it our way. And I think what we're trying to do is encourage a shift where we need to see it. We need to understand better the forces of change, and we need to respect the forces of change around us and adapt our practices in response to that. Because the pressures that are causing the changes within our systems are real, and they're not going away. In fact, those pressures are increasing. So we look at the pressures on the traditional delivery model. We know that time is getting tighter and tighter, and that all we're being squeezed from both sides, at the design end, at the construction end, and that we're being asked to do more with less in a shorter period of time. That's our reality. We need to accept that. We need to adapt to that. At the same time, we believe there's other opportunities for architects that go beyond traditional practice, both at the beginning and before projects exist as traditional projects and after projects exist. And that we're looking to expand our service offerings before and after as a way to relieve some of that pressure. And we're also looking to sort of a more horizontal expansion before and after, and then sort of a more vertical expansion through interdisciplinarity and bringing different design disciplines. It enables us to take on more aspects of the design through those traditional practices as well. So for us, it's moving in both directions, and just accepting that some of the things that are happening to our profession are beyond our control. And unless we really accept that, we're putting our practices in jeopardy.
Now, in terms of the after, you mentioned some services. What would be some examples of services that you might offer after the project is over?
Well, one of the simplest is just simply taking post-occupancy evaluation and adjustment much more seriously. I think too often architects are guilty of sort of being afraid to look at the impact of their projects and going back and actually talking to the people that use their buildings and understanding if they worked. Do they work? Where are the challenges? I believe that there's a service offering that when we really embrace learning from the impact of our work and learning from the true results of our work, that we can go to our clients and say, look, we've been studying how that building is operating. Here's the things that didn't quite work out, or here's the things that have changed in terms of the operation or the functional issues. We think there's a way to tweak your building. We think there's a way to make some simple modifications and get greater efficiency and greater impact. That's an example of treating the building not as through the life cycle of the construction phase, but really through the life cycle of the building, and saying, well, what if we went back in 5 years and said, what if we tweaked this? What if we went back in 10 years? What if we went back in 20 years? So we think that there's opportunities to go back and help our clients think of their buildings more like musical instruments that need tuning from time to time. And I don't think we do that often enough. So I think that's an example of where we can go beyond. We can also, I think, increasingly, the type of skill set that we have and the type of problem solving that we bring, the sort of multivariable problem solving, some have referred to as wicked problems, the way that we think are so well suited for the dynamics of organizational decision making, whether it be governance structures or simple just the way that organizations communicate amongst themselves. I think that the boundaries between the physical design and the sort of physical construct and the social construct are merging, and increasingly we can have impact on both and adjust the physical to suit the social.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing from you, Darryl, is that you feel the solution that's going to emerge from the pressures on the industry is more interdisciplinary practices, and then also integrated horizontally as well, service delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And that we get involved earlier, helping our problems define problems, helping them understand their problems before. Oftentimes it's not a physical solution that is needed, and we shouldn't be afraid of going to our clients, asking them about their problems, helping them and say, you don't need a building. You need to tweak your organization. that should be something that is natural to us as, well, here's a physical solution. And I think that will gain additional trust, and people will see us in a different light.
Awesome. Well, Darryl Condon, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
And that is a wrap. If you enjoyed today's show, you'll love my Freedom Firm webinar that goes over the 3 principles that you need to apply to create a firm that has less fires and more fun. This is a 60-minute free online training. You can get access by going to businessofarchitecture.com/freedom webinar. If you'd like to discover the cutting edge information about how to consistently bring in attraction, how to attract and find and attract the kind of clients that you want to work with, go check out the free 60-minute presentation that I put together, available online. You can get access to that by going to architectwebinar.com. I really hope you enjoy those 2 presentations. There's a lot of valuable information there. Now, today's podcast was sponsored by BQE Core and SageGlass. BQE Core is an all-in-one firm management software that allows you to manage your firm by keeping accurate timesheets, understanding where projects are at, and being able to invoice and bill your clients. Go get a free trial at businessofarchitecture.com/demo. SageGlass is the manufacturer of a highly intelligent dynamic glass, which means that it can change the tint of the glass, how much light comes through that glass with the flip of a button or a smartphone application. This is really the future of building technology. Go check it out at sageglass.com. And lastly, I need to remind you that the views expressed on this show do not represent those of the host, and I make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract, bond, or commitment except to help you conquer the world. Carpe diem.